So, welcome back, and we're looking at one question, very important. How do you know that your relationship is going to last long? For example, how do you know that your marriage will last long? It's very simple, because you can know whether your relationship, whether your marriage is going to last long or, well, not so good. But I'll be sharing with you 5 key components that you can find in relationships and marriages that stand the test of time. So you make sure you watch to the end so that you identify if your relationship has this 5 or it has 3 out of 5 or any of them at all, and you can know what to do to start cultivating these in your relationship. If you know anyone in your family or you have grandparents who have been together for a very long time, their relationship has stood the test of time, you're going to look at these components and see if it's not true for them. Component number 1 is commitment. Now, people would not like when I say this word commitment, but I tell you, there is no magic potion to have a long-lasting relationship. There is no relationship without ups and downs. There is no marriage without friction and challenges, and everyone will have their fair share of challenges in their relationship. Now, don't misunderstand me. When people say they have enjoyed a hitch-free marriage or a hitch-free relationship, they are not saying that there were no challenges at all. That's not practical. If you have 2 people coming from 2 different backgrounds with 2 different points of views who have to walk together in the same direction, obviously there are bound to be disagreements. But these people are saying that the challenges did not take a toll on them. So it's not that weeds never grew in their garden, it's that they had a system that eliminated weeds before they could even take solid roots and start causing havoc to the flowers. Commitment is loyalty. Commitment is faithfulness. Commitment is making the decision to outlast the bad weathers of your relationship, because after the storm, there's always going to be a bright sunlight and a beautiful day. You know, in movies, it happens in a day, but this could take months. This could take even years. There are people who have been reconciled just through the power of commitment after 10, 15, 20 years of separation, and yet they enjoyed living happily ever after. It's important for me to clarify that commitment is to the marriage. Commitment is not to the person you're married to, because the person you're married to could backslide, could fail, could turn and into a complete different person than the person you married. It doesn't mean you remain committed to them, perhaps even at the expense of your life or at the risk of your personal health and well-being. No, commitment here is to the marriage. It's saying, I can't tolerate this behavior or this attitude that you're struggling with. So we're going to create an environment where we are going to try to eliminate this weed that is growing in you. But until then, I'm going to keep my distances. Sometimes that's where separation comes in, but not divorce. No, the termination of everything. It's saying we are not going to destroy the garden just because some weeds came in. We are going to separate the flowers. We may even put them out for a while, under a nursery, so we can sort out the weed before putting our flowers back right there. Number 2, this is a very interesting one, is responsibility. Now, when you look at history, many people think that, marriages, high rate of failure in marriages began today or recently. Not really. It just happens that recently we have been more serious about collecting data about the issue, where we now have phones that we can videotape a lot of these things and abuses and cheating and all those things. But once you study history, you realize that, humans have always been humans, especially the unregenerated human. So all these things of broken homes, it's long lasting. But my research shows that many marriages survived and lasted longer in those days than today because of the nature of their societal fabric. To begin with, instead of this point of responsibility, back then, what rather kept marriages together was dependability. You remember, since women did not have so much rights and privileges in society, could not work or fend for themselves, they were completely dependent on the man. So they had no choice but to tolerate the irresponsibilities of the man. You realize that. And therefore, no matter how tough it got, they were dependent on him to stay, and also for themselves and for their kids. Now, when you look at such a societal fabric of the past, you realize that it implicated two things. Number one, the women stayed in marriages, not necessarily because they were having a great time, but because they didn't really have the resources or the power to go like we can see today. And number two, it also meant that a man could not be assessed for his manhood capabilities. By manhood, I mean like his abilities as a man, responsibilities, whatever. Meaning that a man could not be assessed for his weight as a man in the real sense, because the dependability of the woman made so much so that we cannot really tell if this man was responsible or not. And most of the times, most men were irresponsible. But because he's irresponsible and you have no choice, you kind of still have to follow an irresponsible leader, an incapable leader, and you have to submit to them. But well, I'm sorry guys, the times have changed, and today women are educated, perhaps even more educated than men. Women are working, and so they can be able now to weigh a man and see if he is, what's the word they use? Man enough kind of sounds bizarre, but what I'm trying to say, if he is responsible enough. So if all he can give and provide for the family is not even enough to take care of the minimum basic things, the woman is not going to squeeze herself into that minimum to manage. She will say, but no, with my qualification, I can earn 1,000,000 times this. So I'm going to go out there and work and earn the life that I feel that I deserve. And so they walk away. But in the past, a less than average man will still be considered a man simply because he could not be assessed or judged because the woman was not in capacity to do so. And so with the developing of society, this has of course created conflict because many fathers were irresponsible and less than, I don't know if I'm using the right word, average. And so that's what they passed on to their sons. Their sons grew up seeing that my dad was careless, my dad was this, was irresponsible. And so the man now, the young boy tries to replicate what he saw his dad do. But newsflash, the lady he's with now is not replicating what his mother did when his dad was doing those things. No, she's been enlightened, she's been transformed, and she's now a capable, powerful woman. Therefore, that means the man has to step up his game and really needs to be responsible now. What exactly then does responsibility implicate in a relationship? It implicates that there is no such thing as it's the woman's job to cook or it's the woman's job to do this or do that. Responsibility therefore means that as a man, all of that is my responsibility. Remember, the woman is a helper. So just like Dr. 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗁 says it, all of that work is first of all my work as the man. So if you have a helper coming to help you do your work and your responsibilities, you don't tell them, okay, I'm dumping everything on you. No, you rather be asking them, okay, I'm busy with a lot and I've been doing it myself. So now that you're coming to help, what do you think you can handle best based on your uniqueness right now? If you're better at the cooking or you're more predisposed to the cooking, please could you help with that? And that way I'm grateful for your help in every area. So this sense of responsibility makes it such that a very, very key part of a healthy relationship is always present, and that is gratitude. And this goes both ways, even for the woman. You know, people underrate the importance of gratitude. To say he went out there and he took the responsibility for the needs of the family and brought something home, to be grateful for the little he could bring home, or that she stayed home or she went out and yet came back and still had to see that everything was in order. To be grateful for those little things because you understand the place of responsibility. And this is a very vital component given the changing of society today for relationships and marriages to last long. The third vital component for happy and long-lasting relationships and homes is the threefold cord, and that is wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. You remember the wise king in Proverbs 24 says that a home is built by wisdom and through understanding is it established, and through knowledge are its rooms filled with pleasant flowers and scents and beauties. What it's basically saying is that it takes wisdom to build a solid foundation. It takes understanding to plant that foundation amidst the tides, the changing society, the fights, the conflicts, and all the pressure that society places on families, on relationships, on homes. So the place of learning, of researching, of understanding how to make marriage work and continuous personal growth from both spouses is very critical. I mean, in your city, before you're authorized to take a vehicle and start moving on the streets, you have to go through some training that will take months, and then you pass an exam before they give you a certificate. And pretty much it's the case for many other things. Anything you're going to be operating something that is very important and delicate. But well, when it comes to marriage, oh no, you don't need to bother. We give you your certificate even before you begin. And of course, the outcome will be obvious. We don't even care if you went through some training or not. So it's up to every couple to take that responsibility to train themselves to continuously learn and grow as people, as individuals. Because as Dr. Myles Munroe says, the relationship will only be as great, as sweet, as comfortable and amazing as the people involved in it. The fourth component is empathy. Now, this is underrated, but this is very important because the human is by default selfish. You by default think of yourself first, which is normal. For the most part of your life, you fought for your rights, you fought for your interests, you fought for yourself. And if you were not married and you had some years of bachelorhood, during that period, you were even reinforcing the programming of you, yourself, and you first. But now in marriage, it's no longer about you. It's about the marriage. It's about the other person involved. You're there to meet their needs. They are there to meet your needs. And so empathy becomes a very key foundational point to be able to put yourself in the shoes of your spouse. Well, she keeps insisting she wants to go back to school or to learn a new skill, to work. I'm trying to put myself in her shoes to understand how she feels about not knowing any skill, about not being able to, speak intellectually in the midst of people in parties, Okay, he keeps nagging he would like to have his food shared before he returns. Well, let me try to put myself in his shoes. How does it feel to have a long day fighting wolves out there and then returning home and having to still go on to wade and struggle or fight to get something to eat, whereas your helper was already home before you or was home all day? Empathy remains the most sought after quality for excellent leadership today. To be able to feel for others. With digitalization, people are more comfortable to say horrible things behind a screen which they would have never said in front of someone, simply because behind that screen they can't see the person's face, they can't see the person's emotions. We can easily fire people because they are just numbers and data on a sheet of paper, which is very different from standing face to face with all these people and walking with sweat with them and then later telling them to go away just for our personal interest. So empathy becomes very key in this. And the fifth component for a long-lasting relationship and to know that your marriage or relationship is going to last long, obviously you've been looking for it right from the beginning. It's love, obviously. But as you can see, love is not the most important. Love is not even the first thing to have, because in the days of arranged marriages, love came later. No, your parents' interest came first, and sometimes love never did come, but the commitment to the kids, the empathy towards the kids, the responsibility towards the family, towards society, towards the marriage itself were the guiding points that made the marriage last longer than what otherwise it could have. And still, when I say love, many of us may assume we know what love is, but it's not always the case. So just for the sake of the length of the video, I'll challenge you to contribute down what do you think is the kind of love that will make a marriage last longer. But a quick hint for you, love in this case is a decision. Love in this case is a choice. Love in this case is not the feelings or the emotions. Those come after and they are subject to mixing up because they are chemicals. But love here is saying, I exist for your interest. I exist for your good. You exist for my good. And if we have two people existing for each other's good, how can they feel bad? How can they not live a good life if you have someone who is completely living and dedicated for your good? You understand? This is why the Apostle Paul could advise the single people not to get married, saying the person who is married is occupied with the things of making their spouse happy and satisfied. So if indeed we are still hurrying into marriage and we are not fully occupied in making our spouses comfortable, then it means we are not even married in the context of the Apostle Paul. So we are neither single, we are neither married. Wow, that is kind of maybe too extra for this video, but if you understand, you're going to drop in the comments below what kind of love would make a marriage last longer. If you're married, tell us in the comments below how many of these 5 components can you identify in your relationship, in your marriage, so we can know down below. I hope you enjoyed the video and every second of it. I really had to take time to expand on this. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that bell if you're new. I want to say a big thank you to all our patrons for supporting our work and making a video like this possible. I encourage you to not keep it to yourself. Share it with friends, share it with couples that you know, and everyone needs to have these 5 components. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'm 𝗣𝗿𝗀𝘀𝗁𝗂 from Wisdom for Dominion. See you in the next video.